Godly education begins with inner transformation, because true elevation always starts within a person before it appears around them. When God prepares to lift someone higher, He first works on their mindset, their attitudes, and their internal belief systems. Education in this context is not limited to textbooks or classrooms. It is the training of the heart and the renewing of the mind. A person may gain academic knowledge, but if their inner world is filled with confusion, fear, pride, or instability, that knowledge cannot take them very far. Godly education reshapes a person from the inside out, teaching them to think with clarity, respond with maturity, and make decisions grounded in purpose rather than pressure. This inner transformation teaches individuals to see themselves the way God sees them, capable, valuable, and purpose-driven. It removes limiting beliefs, uproots negative patterns, and replaces emotional reactions with spiritual discipline. When a person learns to control their thoughts, manage their emotions, and strengthen their character, they become ready for higher levels of responsibility. God lifts people when their internal life aligns with His principles, because elevation without transformation becomes dangerous. Many fall not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack the inner strength to sustain it. Godly education builds this strength by teaching patience, integrity, humility, and resilience, qualities that cannot be learned from books alone, but through personal growth, reflection, and spiritual guidance. When these qualities grow, a person becomes stable, trustworthy, and capable of handling bigger responsibilities without being overwhelmed. This is why inner transformation is the true starting point of elevation. Once the inside is aligned with God's purpose, the outside naturally begins to rise. Knowledge guided by wisdom creates sustainable growth, because information alone is never enough to elevate a person. Many people know a lot, but they do not rise higher because their knowledge is not directed, filtered, or anchored by wisdom. Wisdom gives meaning, purpose, and structure to what a person learns. It teaches them not only what to do, but when, why, and how to do it. Without wisdom, knowledge can lead to pride, confusion, or poor decisions. But when wisdom guides knowledge, learning becomes transformation, and growth becomes stable, balanced, and long-lasting. Godly education connects the mind with the spirit. It teaches an individual to think critically, but also to think ethically. It helps them recognize opportunities, avoid destructive choices, and make decisions that match their values. Wisdom protects a person from misusing their skills or allowing ego to distort their learning. It shapes judgment, sharpens discernment, and strengthens discipline. This combination, knowledge shaped by wisdom, creates a kind of growth that cannot be shaken by stress, temptation, or external pressure. Sustainable growth also requires the ability to apply what has been learned. Wisdom teaches practical application. It turns lessons into lifestyle, understanding into behavior, and insight into action. When a person learns something new, wisdom shows them where it fits in their life and how to use it to improve themselves and serve others. This is why people who grow with wisdom rise steadily, not suddenly. Their elevation is not accidental, but intentional. In this way, godly wisdom becomes the foundation that supports long-term success. It ensures that education becomes a tool for purpose, not pride, and a path to higher living, not temporary achievement. When knowledge and wisdom work together, a person's growth becomes strong, steady, and deeply rooted. Godly education builds character that can carry promotion, because true elevation is never based on talent alone. It is built on the strength of a person's character. Skills may open doors, but only character can keep those doors open. When God prepares to lift someone higher, He focuses first on shaping their inner stability, integrity, humility, and discipline. These qualities act as the foundation that supports growth. Without character, promotion becomes a burden. With character, promotion becomes a platform for greater purpose. Character formation is an educational process. It involves learning through challenges, correcting behaviors, and developing the maturity to handle responsibility without allowing pride or fear to take over. Godly education teaches an individual to be trustworthy, consistent, and dependable. qualities that matter more than raw ability. A person may be gifted, but if they lack honesty, patience, or self-control, their elevation can collapse under pressure. Character ensures that a person can withstand the weight of success without compromising their values. Integrity keeps a person grounded when opportunities arise. Humility keeps them teachable even when they achieve progress. Discipline keeps them focused and protects them from distraction. Responsibility helps them manage what they receive. These character traits are not produced instantly. They are developed gradually through learning, reflection, and spiritual guidance. God uses both life experiences and intentional education to build these qualities, making a person ready for higher levels of influence. When character is strong, promotion becomes safe. God can trust someone with leadership, resources, influence, and opportunities because their foundation is solid. They do not misuse blessings or allow success to distort their identity. Instead, they carry promotion with grace, strength, and wisdom. This is why character building is central to godly education. It ensures that when elevation comes, the person can sustain it, grow through it, and use it to honor God and uplift others. Learning as a lifelong spiritual discipline means recognizing that growth does not stop at any age, stage, or achievement level. Many people limit education to school or formal environments, but godly education continues throughout life because every season brings new lessons, new responsibilities, and new levels of maturity. When a person remains teachable, they stay open to correction, guidance, and expansion. This humility creates room for God to keep shaping their thinking, refining their character, and preparing them for greater opportunities. Lifelong learning keeps the heart soft, the mind sharp, and the spirit ready for elevation. A person who stops learning becomes stagnant, but one who embraces continuous learning becomes adaptable and resilient. Life changes, challenges evolve, and responsibilities grow. Therefore, the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn becomes essential for long-term growth. Godly education trains a person to reflect on their experiences, extract lessons from their mistakes, and seek wisdom from every situation. This ongoing process strengthens judgment and develops maturity. It takes the individual to remain attentive to God's direction and sensitive to the opportunities that align with their purpose. Staying teachable is also a sign of spiritual strength. Pride closes the door to elevation, but teachability opens it. When an individual acknowledges that they always have more to learn about themselves, about others, and about God, they remain in a position where growth is continuous and natural. This makes them ready for new assignments and new responsibilities without being overwhelmed. Lifelong learning becomes a habit that keeps a person prepared for higher levels of influence. Ultimately, learning as a spiritual discipline ensures that God can keep lifting a person higher. Instead of being limited by outdated thinking or old patterns, they remain fresh, flexible, and forward-moving. They grow not just in knowledge, but in wisdom, character, and purpose. This kind of learning creates a life that becomes stronger with every season, wiser with every experience, and more aligned with God's plan with every step. Here is the expanded fifth keynote in 300 words, without headings, and fully in an educational, motivational style. The pursuit of godly education ultimately equips a person to step into meaningful influence and purposeful impact. True education is not measured merely by certificates, grades, or academic milestones. It is measured by the transformation it produces within you and the contributions it empowers you to make in the world. When learning is anchored in God's wisdom, it shapes character before capability, integrity before opportunity, and purpose before success. This form of education trains a person not only to know more, but to become more responsible, more disciplined, more compassionate, and more aligned with the principles that sustain real growth. As individuals mature in this kind of learning, they are prepa, ready to influence families, communities, workplaces, and even nations with clarity, humility, and moral strength. Godly education becomes a foundation that stabilizes people in times of pressure and guides them when faced with difficult decisions because their values are rooted in something higher than personal ambition. Impact is not created by knowledge alone. It is created by the wisdom to apply knowledge correctly. This wisdom develops through consistent learning, reflection, and obedience to divine truth. A person trained by godly principles learns to lead with service rather than pride, to build others rather than compete destructively, and to use their abilities for the greater good rather than personal praise. With each level of growth, their influence increases naturally, not because they demand it, but because people trust the depth of their character. Godly education empowers you to stand firm in your identity, communicate with excellence, work with diligence, and rise with integrity. As these qualities become your lifestyle, you are lifted into positions where your influence multiplies, and your impact becomes a reflection of God's wisdom working through you. Here is a powerful educational style conclusion for your speech, godly education that lifts you. You hire. No headings, fully motivational, polished, and ready to use. A true journey of education is not just about rising academically, but rising internally, rising in discipline, rising in clarity, rising in purpose, and rising in the character that honors God. When learning is guided by divine wisdom, every step forward becomes a step upward, lifting you beyond limitations and preparing you for influence that is meaningful and lasting. Godly education shapes how you think, how you choose, how you lead, and how you serve. It pushes you to become a person whose success is not only seen in achievement, but reflected in integrity, compassion, and the strength to stand for what is right. As you grow in this kind of learning, you do not simply climb for personal gain, you climb to become a light in places that need direction and a voice in moments that call for truth. Every lesson you absorb, every principle you practice, and every value you protect becomes part of the foundation that God uses to lift you higher than your circumstances and deeper than your fears. This elevation is not accidental. It is intentional, purposeful, and aligned with God's design for your life. When you commit yourself to learning that honors Him, you position yourself for opportunities that carry His favor and blessings that reach beyond your expectations. Your education becomes a tool of transformation, not only for your future, but for everyone you touch. So rise with confidence, grow with wisdom, and walk in the truth that the more you learn through God, the higher He will lift you. Your life becomes the evidence that godly education does not just change minds, it changes destinies.